Okay, another Patreon Q&A. Thank you again, Patreon, so much for your support. I want to start with the challenge this month. We have, every month we have a challenge on the Patreon Discord channel. This month is quite fun. There is also a giveaway. So the challenge this month is to compose a track, a composition, using this graphic score. It's not the best, but it's a nice one. There are all sorts of wiggly lines and circles and stuff you can work with. You can choose your favorite instrument. It can be VCV, it can be Rack, it can be different synths, guitars, pianos, whatever. You can choose whatever you feel inspired by and compose something using this graphic score. Again, all of the details are in the Discord channel. And there's also a giveaway. There is a, how is it called? The gift card for Toman, a gift card for Audio Damage. They have now a new plugin released, all sorts of things you can choose from. Again, all of the details are in the Discord channel. If you're a Patreon, come join us on Discord. If you are not a Patreon, consider joining us on Patreon. We have a really nice community there going on. So this is the challenge for this month. Again, each month we are doing something interesting. Today I thought we can do some live looping, some looping with the Chronoblob just for fun, just to have something in the background. So it's not just me looking at the camera and speaking. So before we start with Chronoblob, let's start with the first question. There are a few questions this month. Again, thank you so much for the questions and for the support. Mark Oros, would you consider creating a video on the use of the ADDAC 207, the intuitive quantizer? So Mark, this is a complicated question. The answer is yes and no. I have, maybe you can see this behind me. I don't know where shall I move, but you can see the case there. I hope you can see it. There are many modules there that I got in the last 2 or 3 years, I don't know, when I started already. And I would love to make videos. I have so many ideas. I made already a few videos about hardware. I have so many ideas, so many things I want to show and I want to share, including this quantizer that I got recently. But it's so much work doing videos for hardware. It's complicated because I don't have the equipment. Also, I have a webcam that I work with. The lighting here is not the best. I don't have space, physical space to put cameras everywhere and different angles and stuff like this. And also, if I'm working on something, on music, then I have to take everything apart just for the video. Or until I'm not finishing the video, I cannot start with making music or experimenting or practicing. So it's much more complicated than making videos for VCV Rack, where I can save the patches, I can have notes next to me because it's all in the computer. My mic is right here. I don't have to find space for my microphone. And when I move to show something with the hardware, it's really anyway. It's complicated. It's so much work, but again, there is so much I want to show. There is so many ideas I want to share that maybe one day I will go back making videos on hardware. For now, I told myself that I'm concentrating only on VCV Rack, unless there is like something special coming out. But for now, I'm concentrating on VCV Rack. I don't think that I will, in the near future, that I will make videos with hardware. Music, I will always continue doing. I hope this is the plan. But if there are hardware modules that in VCV Rack, like soon there are more Befaco modules, for example, that I have already a few ideas from hardware that I want to share. So I will make videos about hardware that is available in VCV. Soon there is VCV and a new version of VCV Rack as I understood it. So it will be exciting times. So again, the answer is yes, I would love to make a video about it. I have many ideas with it, but I guess that it's also a no because it's just too complicated. It's so much work. And I don't have the equipment or the space. And there are other people who are doing this much better than I. So I guess, yeah, for now, it's a no. I'm sorry. But if there are any questions you would like, feel free to ask. Email me on Discord, whatever. Feel free. Okay, so let's start looping something before we move on to the next question. I have my MIDI keyword here set. So I will just select it. And we will start with the FM operator. Why not? This was a car from outside. Why not? Why not? The FM operator is always nice. So basically how we can loop with the chronoblob, we set the feedback to 100%. And now it will not fade out. It will just stay there. Maybe we can also have a ping pong delay, and maybe we can offset also the times. So now it will also get out of phase. I'll just have a schluck. A schluck of tea. And let's see what happens. I will have the sustain actually. Maybe something like this. Okay, let's see before the reverb and everything. Actually, before we loop it, let's just listen to it. Maybe I can also MIDI map the feedback. I have here this, very nice. And maybe, you know what, maybe, no, this is okay. Let's see. Right? So this will be it. Maybe we can have a longer time. Right, so now basically feedback to 100%, and then it will just continue looping. Let's play a few notes. Right? Cool. Maybe take the level a bit down. Need some reverb. Right, so now it will basically continue looping like this, and we can add different voices. Let's add a nice bass to this also. Let's see. Quite fun. Let's have another one, but with a different time, and then we will go back to the questions. Right, I will offset the time even longer. Let's leave it as it was here, and let's have something a bit more percussive this time. All right, let's just listen to this first, and then we can record something. Maybe a bit more feedback. Right? Something like this. 100%. They are not playing. Let's see. Okay, now. Right, and then what we can do is we can add a filter after this, just to bring. I like using filters as level control as well as timbre control. So instead of just using a VCA to bring the level up and down, I like using filters, because then the timbre also changes. So I will use an LFO to control here. Right? Somewhere from here, for example. Right. Now I can listen to this for hours. I like this sort of things. It can concentrate with this stuff like this. Okay, let's continue to the next question. Oscar Momberg. Hi, Oscar. Have you ever considered making an Omri Cohen collection for VCV, like designing your own sequencers, oscillators, etc.? Oscar, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. First of all, there is the modular fungi collection. Where is it? The modular fungi collection, this one here, that I didn't create by myself. I had the idea for the modules, and I had lots and lots of help from other developers that helped me to create it. There are blanks here that I'm not so proud of, to be honest. There is also the lights off module that will turn off the lights, and the crazy oscilloscope with all sorts of different interesting features. So this is the collection that I created until now. Again, I have no idea when it comes to coding and programming and stuff like this, and designing also. I have no idea. I have many ideas for modules. I have a whole list, Google Docs list of different, there is a sequencer, sample and hold, and other modules as well. All sorts of different ideas for modules that maybe one day I would like to work on. The thing is that I would like them to be available for free, and therefore I'm not so sure who can I contact to create those modules, because there will be no money involved. So other people, developers and designers, will have also, to work for free basically. So I'm not so sure if it will ever happen unless I meet the right people. But yeah, this will be really cool. Yeah. So yes, I have many ideas, and there is already the modular fungi collection. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Next question. Let's have a listen. Let's try another question, and then we can continue with the patch. Oh, this is a good question to continue with the patch. Harry Frost. Hi Omri. Hi. What is ratcheting when related to gates? I'm trying to learn the orange line gator module. Okay, so ratcheting, let's go over what is ratcheting, because the gator module, first of all, if you are not familiar with the orange line collection, this is the orange line collection, really interesting and deep modules. I really recommend having a look. They are available for free, and Gator is one of them. And Gator basically should add ratcheting and jitter and also strumming effect to your gates or voices. I couldn't manage to make it work for me. I have to dig deeper. I'm in contact also with a developer that made them, and he's a really nice guy that is really willing to help anyone actually that wants to try his modules out. So if you have any issues with the modules, feel free to contact him. I'm sure he will be happy to help you out. But I couldn't make it work for now. I have to dig deeper. But ratcheting is ratcheting. So let me show you this with a different module, with the entry and drummer. The entry and sequencers are amazing sequencers, basically a whole piano roll, DAW, piano roll style sequencers with all sorts of crazy features. So let's have a look. If I open, for example, the hi-hat, right, I will use the hi-hat from Hoa, and we need also a clock. And you can see here it says clock multiplied by 4. So we need to use a clock multiplied by 4 for this. Right, let's take the BPM a bit down, maybe 90, 91, why not, 92, okay. Right, so now if I go into, and it's not opening it, why? Sometimes it just doesn't work here, and I'm not so sure why. It's an issue with my setup here and not with the, no, it's not going to work. Okay, we will use a different, I'm sorry for this. We will use a different sequencer because I have issues with this thing. Let's see, I will choose a different sequencer that has also ratcheting. So the gate sequencer has also ratcheting. And for this, we will need to use a higher clock resolution. So basically, a clock resolution means how many pulses you can have inside a quarter note. If you have 1 pulse per quarter note, it means that you can have only quarter notes. If you have 4 pulses per quarter note, it means that you can have up to 16th notes. If you want more than this for ratcheting, you will need a higher clock resolution. I will use a clock resolution. I have a video all about this, the different gate modes. I will use a clock resolution of 12. So for each pulse, we can have up to, for each quarter note, we can have up to 12 pulses inside, which is more than enough, but we just need to use a multiplied clock. I will use a multiplied clock of 48. So it's 12 times 4, right? I'm sorry the other sequencer doesn't work. Maybe in a different opportunity I can show you this because the entrance sequencers are really amazing. Right, so now let's say that I have here something like this. And let's connect this to the mixer. Maybe we'll have, right, something like this. Maybe, you know what, maybe all of them. Right, and now let's say that I want to have ratchets on this step here. Now ratchets basically will take the note and will divide it into multiple pulses and will play multiple pulses in the same time of one note. So it basically will multiply this note. So what we have to do, we can choose it, right? And then we have here, you can see the different gate modes. So I can choose this one, for example. You heard it? Right? So now in this space of this note, we get multiple pulses, which is basically ratcheting, and it's only on gates. Right, so if I had notes here, that's a cool rhythm. Maybe we'll use this voice also. Right, maybe a bit noisy. This is cool. So if I add here, right, a voice, so let's say that we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, right? So I will have the gate sequencer will be for the gates, and the ADDR sequencer will be for the notes. I will go with G minor. I think those are the notes that I played before. We have also a question about the quantizer that we can have a look, right? So we have 5 notes. Let's do this. The ADDR should be, let's say, 0 to 1. So we have 1 octave. I hope I'm not going too fast, right? Let's have a listen to this. Right. And let's do something like this. Maybe 8. Let's go with 8. You know what? There's 5, 6, 7, and 8. Right? Right? So now we have also notes, but the ratcheting is only for the gates. So the notes, the pulses will play the same note. So if, for example, I had here again ratcheting, let's go with this. Or maybe the same one. But now okay, so I have to use the clock for this one here. Let's do this. Right, so the ratcheting will be but the ratcheting will basically split the pulses of the one note, but the note will stay the same. I got a really interesting rhythm here. Right? Let's turn this voice to an FM voice. This is a nice. This is a nice. No, seriously, this is really nice. So we have a. Right, so basically ratcheting will divide or multiply, depends how you look at it, the one note or whatever, how many notes you want, and will multiply them to multiple pulses, right? And this is basically what ratcheting is. There are many ways you can create ratcheting in a modular system. Again, the gator, I think the gator is probably the perfect module for this. I couldn't make it work. I hope you can contact the developer and get some help from him. Again, he's a really nice guy. And let's add sample and hold here. But basically, this is ratcheting when it's connected to gates. Right, let's add here panning for the hi-hat. Man, this is nice. And let's add some reverb here and maybe again use another LFO to modulate the FM depth. Nice. And maybe another LFO. Maybe another LFO to modulate the panning of this voice. Right, and another LFO to modulate the rate of this LFO. Nice. Right? So we have two loops here, and a hi-hat and an FM voice. Cool. Okay, let's continue to the next question. I hope this made sense with the ratcheting. Should make a video all about ratcheting and also about the gator module for sure. Burnaby Norris, hi. Hey Omri. Every time you fire up a this is the question about the quantizer. Every time you fire up a quantizer and choose some notes, it sounds amazing. Thank you. Could you explain a bit about your process when you're choosing the notes for an ARP, chords, etc.? Doesn't need to be a whole music theory for modular video, though that could be awesome one day, for sure. But a bit insight into how you build your harmonies would be very cool. So first of all, I have a video. It's about generative tricks you can use, or all sorts of different tricks you can use to harmonize your patches. So have a look at this video, let the modules work for you. If you look on the playlists, it's under the generative playlist. So I have some tricks there that you can use. And about the quantizer, let's change the quantizer now for the FM operator. So usually what I will do, first of all, now, as you can see, I didn't enter any notes. I just chose the scale that I was in this case, because I played, this is something that, it's musical theory, but I played G, D, and B flat. In this case, I wanted this to be G minor. So this is the G minor scale. So I chose G minor, didn't choose any notes, I just chose the scale itself and it worked. But usually what I will do is I will choose 4 or 5 notes maximum. So I will not go above that, I will not go with the whole scale usually. I think that 4 notes or 5 notes is so-called a pentatonic scale. is more than enough, because otherwise you get all sorts of different clashes sometimes, which might also be cool, which might also sound nice. But I usually go with 4 or 5 notes. So if, for example, there is something, by the way, that you should remember about a quantizer. You can see this quantizer, Quantum, and many other quantizers are set in a sort of keyboard. So you see we have here C, and then C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, and so on. But basically, it doesn't mean anything. If I enter, for example, now, so look, I will show you this, all right? If I enter now C, E flat, F, G, and B flat, you see only 5 notes in this case. It's on the so-called C minor scale. If your oscillator is tuned to something else than C, this will not be the C minor scale anymore. So just because it says here C, or it doesn't say here, but it shows you like a keyboard that it's C, and E flat, and G, and so on, doesn't mean that this is what your oscillator will give you. So for example, I will use another FM operator and a tuner, right? So now, and also offset, I just want to show you this. So the offset will go to the quantizer, and then to the FM operator, and to hot tuner. So now we have C, right? When I start adding voltage, it will quantize it to the next, I said. The next one is E flat. In this case, it says D sharp, but I can use E flat just like this, right? E flat, and then we have F, and then we'll have G, right? It will just quantize them, and then we will have B flat, right? B flat. But this is when my oscillator is tuned to C. But if I tune the oscillator now to G, for example, you will see that we get the notes from the G minor scale. Because what matters are the intervals, are the spaces between the notes, and not the notes themselves. So now we start with G. As you can see, the next one will be, it will not be E flat, it will be B flat, because this is the next interval, and then the next interval will be C, and the next one will be D, right? And the last one will be probably F, right? So now, even though we stayed with the same notes on the quantizer, we get a different scale. In this case, it's the G minor scale, which means basically that you should have a look on your oscillators, especially in hardware. In VCV, it doesn't matter so much because by default they are all tuned to C. But with your hardware, you might get different results. And again, try not to use all of the notes of the scale, although as you can see here, right, it works, but try not to use all of them. 4 or 5 are more than enough. This is what I found. So I don't have any tricks. I guess it's just something that I'm used to doing. I don't know what else. Let me think. 4 or 5 notes. Again, you have to make sure that how you tune your oscillators. Yeah, and that's it, more or less, I guess. Yeah. So there is no magic in this. I guess it's just a bit of basic musical theory. Music theory or musical theory? I think it's music theory. Right, which is always nice. I mean, you don't have to, especially in modular, you don't have to learn anything about music theory because the modules can do everything for you. But the more tools you have, I guess, the better. I'm not so sure. Maybe sometimes it's not so good, but I always recommend learning the basics at least. This is also what I know. I'm not so amazing in music theory. I started as a drummer. Drummers are not musicians, apparently. Yeah, you know, but just a bit of music theory can always help. Even if you want to create like microtonal music and stuff like this, or you just don't care, at least you make stuff from a choice. I think making music from, or the type of music you want to make from a choice and not from necessity is always better. So if you want to make microtonal music, you can make it because you choose to make it and not because this is the only thing you can do. So I really recommend going through the basics of music theory, triads, seventh chords, basic scales, and again, try not using all of the notes of the scale. At least experiment with this and see the results you are getting. I hope this was helpful. Okay, let's have a look at another voice. Let's add a fat bass to this. A fat bass is always psych. Always psych is amazing. Also in hardware, of course. And the filter, I'm using tangents in this case. I will activate the sub oscillator on psych. And I will just create a drone. So instead of tuning psych, I can use ref tone just to send a G note, right? Instead of tuning things, just easier in VCV. And let's take it 2 octaves down. Oh yeah. Man, psych. Right. Now all we have to do is add an LFO here. Add an LFO, a slow LFO to open it. Right. And of course, how can we continue without sending the high frequencies into a delay? Again, corner blow, in this case not for looping, but for something like this, all the way wet. And a reverb, we can add send reverb, right, something like this maybe. So just the high frequencies will go there, just to add more space, to this bass sound, channel 6. Let's change this. I'm using Lala to split the frequencies. Let's go with above 500 Hz, everything above 500. We'll go to the delay. Okay, let's continue with one more question and then add another voice. Yeah, so I hope I helped you with the question about the quantizer. Of course, I would love to make a video about music theory in modular. There are many things you can try, but from this you can start. Again, less notes. Make sure your oscillators, just because it says on the quantizer C doesn't mean that your oscillator will play a C also. And try, and there are so many videos online, basic music theory. I think it can only help. Okay, Raman Poyo, hi. Can you tell us how to handle panning in VCV Rack? Do you use or planning to use for the future VST VR Micro for active panning for binaural audio? And there's another question. In one of your YouTube videos, you made some great frog sounds with a percussion sound. Can you learn us how to make additional funny, crazy sounds beats? Or are all of them happy accidents? Alright, so let's start with A. How to handle panning in VCV and Rack. So in VCV it's quite easy. You have it in the mixer you're using. There is also, for example, the pan module from Bog Audio you can use to pan, right, with CV. There are also crossfaders you can use to crossfade between the left and the right, for example. Auto crossfader from Nischi. This you can also use. I like using also this vector mixer from Nischi. Where did it go now? This one here, right? So you have 4 inputs or 1 input, and you can pan it left and right, and also control the levels. I really like using this module. In hardware, so there is the X-Pan for Make Noise, for example, that can be quite nice for panning. There is the Planer 2 from IntelliGel that I use all the time for this stuff. It's quite similar to the vector mixer here from Niche that I just showed you. But in hardware you will need a dedicated module for it, unless you send your sounds into the computer and you can pen them in the computer. And other than this, how do I handle, I guess, penning just like, penning like where do I place my voices? I use a lot of stereo voices, so I like leaving them stereo because usually they are not 100% stereo, they are going everywhere in between, like this hi-hat for example. Right, you can see it's going everywhere in between. I like modulating the penning with an LFO just like this. Right, sometimes when I use multiple voices that are playing the same thing but they are sounding different, I will pen one to the left and one to the right. There are some approaches where it's like mixing an orchestra, so like you have the violins on the left, then you have correct me if I'm wrong, the violas, and then the woodwinds, and then cello and so on. So you can also try this, have your voices panned a bit like in the stereo field, have them like an orchestra. I don't like doing this so much because of how I perform the patches, I guess. It's not happening for a long time that all of the voices are playing together. So sometimes it will happen that there are just voices on the left, and it will sound a bit weird. I don't like it so much. But you can experiment with that as well, just go to Google Pictures or something, look at how an orchestra is set up, right, in the hall, the concert hall, and just try to say, okay, my cello is more or less my basses, I have the horns, for example, are in the center, there are violins on the left, violas on the right, or violins on the right, I forgot already. So you can really pen it like this and just leave them where they are. I like modulating the penning, I like having voices moving left and right. I know that a lot of people will say your music should translate well to mono, but recently I got to the conclusion that if you want to listen to my music in mono, then just don't listen, because my music is not meant to listening in mono. And this is just how it is, like Susan Ciani, for example, that will only perform in quad, which is also something I would love to try once. I think that the music that I create is meant to be listening in stereo, preferably also on headphones. This is, I think, the best experience. But there was another section to this question about the VR micro and binaural audio. I never experimented with this. I don't have the setup for it also. I have just 2 speakers and 1 headphone. I have nothing else. Although I have the possibility, my audio interface has multiple outputs, so I can have, for example, a quad setup here, which I will never leave this room probably ever again when I have it. I will just have noise going everywhere. But yes, I would love to try something like this, but again, I don't have the setup for it. I do also a lot on YouTube. Sorry, YouTube is not the best for translating binaural audio, I guess. Not now. That's at least how I see it. The next one, in one of your YouTube videos you made some great frog sounds. Yeah, the carpal strong frogs. How to make additional funny, crazy sound bits. Are they all happy accidents? Many of them are happy accidents that I write somewhere in my brain and I say, okay, this is something I can experiment with. Carpal strong is something that I love experimenting with. And we will do this now. Let's add also some frogs now. But there is a lot of experimentation and practice also, and seeing where things take you. I always say it, sit down for a whole week, experiment with carpal strong. You will find many things that you will like, many things that you will not like, and okay, next time I sit for a patch and I want a sound, maybe I don't know how to get exactly this sound, but I know more or less how to start something that can inspire me. So yes, many of them are happy accidents. Some of them I really enjoyed and I kept them, like the carpal strong frogs, for example. And it's all experiment. It's all experimenting. There are a lot of sounds that I don't know how they will end up, but I start them and I just hope for the best. So let's go with carbless strong frogs. Basically, we need noise. We are almost out of channels here on the mixer. We need noise. We need to make this noise a sort of a really snappy and plucky, not plucky, but snappy and really short, like a burst of noise. So I'm going to use a really short envelope, and I'm going to send, let's say, white noise, right, to a VCA, and the envelope will open the VCA. And we need a delay. I like using the delay from VCV. I don't know, it's fun. Mix all the way up. Right, and now a bit more decay. Right, and now the magic happens with the feedback and the delay time. Right. So what we need, I will need walk to modulate randomly the delay time quite quickly. And I like modulating the delay time with something smooth, so unlike sample and hold, it will just jump. I like to make it a bit smoother. Also an LFO can work. Right, and now from here you start experimenting. For example, something I noticed that works really well is a bandpass filter before the VCA with high resonance. So if I add a bandpass filter before the VCA with high resonance, and I also modulate, in this case we can use sample and hold, I also modulate the filter. So you get a couple of strong frogs. Oh yeah, this is a funny sound. And you add some reverb. Right, and you use a really divided clock, let's say divided by 41, just to trigger this every once in a while. A bit more feedback. Right, so every once in a while now you will get a couple of strong frogs. Maybe I will save this patch, you know what? Let's do this. Right. Maybe not divided by 41, but right, so every now and then you will get a couple of strong frogs. Again, you can experiment, you can add to this. You can use something else rather than noise. You can use triggers, you can ping filters. Experiment with this and see where it takes you, and the things you like, keep in mind. The things you don't like, forget about and know not to try them again. And this is more or less it. I mean, there are other crazy things you can do with FM, just all sorts of different things you can try, and have a list maybe that you can remember the things you liked. I have a whole, it's available for the modular fungi level, this document of patching ideas and techniques. This is where I keep all of my crazy ideas. And I have another document that is just with the ideas that I then transfer to the bigger document. So yeah, just it's fun. Okay, I want to add another loop. So I will use another chronoblob. Let's do this here. And I want to use interzone in this case from Valley. And I will use, okay, let's disconnect this here, and this we don't need. Maybe I will use minimap again. Right, so we'll have volt per octave, we will have gate. And now I want to control the filter. So I have level control and filter control. Before we start, I would like to listen to how it sounds like. Some noise. Maybe add an octave down. although I have the keyboard here, it's just easier for me to play. And I need some modulation on the pitch. Let's see what happens with this. Let's see. Oh man, those frogs. Again, I will use another filter after this, just so I have control, right? Not just on the level of this, but also on the frequency. And again, with an LFO, let's take it down and slowly, right? The ratchets are really nice. Okay, let's continue with the questions, and then later I will add another voice. There are not so many more. How do you build oh, this is a good question to add to the patch. How do you build a filter bank in VCV Rack, and what is a filter bank? Haha. Troy Outram, hey man, couple strong folks. A filter bank basically is a collection of filters that you can send signals through and process them in all sorts of ways. So for example, if I want to build a filter bank, let's say a filter bank of 4 filters, so a bank of 4 filters, usually the first filter, let's use, what should we do? Let's use this voice for example. Okay, so the first, I will just take this here, this we don't need. Right, I will use it before the filter just for this demonstration. So let's say that we have a bank of 4 filters. Usually the first one will be a low pass. I will show you this also on the analyzer. Okay, usually the first one will be a low pass, then you will have band pass, and then at the end you will have a high pass. So you have the low frequencies, you have band pass, and then the high frequencies. Now in this case we have just 4, you can have also a bank of 16 filters, so you have low pass, then band, and then high pass. Right, so this will be the low pass, maybe I can take it a bit down. Right, so the low pass will have the low frequencies, maybe even lower. Then we have a band pass, they will have just more or less the frequencies above and below a bit this point here, right, which is this one. Then we have another band pass, we'll have different frequencies, and then we'll have a high pass that will have more or less just the high frequencies, right? So this is basically how you build it. I don't recommend making it because it's a lot of CPU, a lot of modules, although you can use polyphony, but then it's a bit weird and a bit not so comfortable. But there are filter banks in VCV Rack. So, for example, we have Spectra from VCV, which is also a sort of a filter bank. It has 16 band pass filters. And there are other features for a filter bank that I can show you. I will not use this because it's a commercial. I can use, we have the PEQ from Bog Audio. One has 14 filters, one has 6. Let's use the 6th one. Right, so we have a bank of 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 filters, each one in a different frequency. The first one will be a low pass. This one will be, you can see here, channel 1. You can activate and deactivate it. Channel 1 low pass, channel 8 channel 8, channel 6 it should be, channel 6 high pass, right? So the first one is low pass, the last one is high pass, and everything in between is band pass. So we have here everything below 100 Hz, then we have band pass 175, band pass 350, band pass 700, band pass 1400. You can change this, you can modulate this, and then high pass 2500, whatever is there. So I will need another mixer, I believe. I will use another mixer. What can we do? So I will use this voice, and then we have one input in this case and one output. The output will be after all of the filters. So instead of taking out from each one of them, you have output out of all of them, or you have also individual outputs, so you can process each of those bands separately, which is quite unique, which is quite cool. And let's have a listen to this for a second. Oh, there's a truck outside. Right? So this is now this voice going through the filter bank. And now what I can do, I can say, for example, I want to take down the low pass and the high pass, and I want to stay just with one band. So now this is just one band active. And again, I can change this band. Right? I can use only the output, the individual output of this band, and process it in all sorts of ways. And another thing filter banks usually have is an envelope follower for each of the bands. I'm sorry this video is long, about 50 minutes already, but this is how Q&As are, I guess. So you have also an envelope follower for each band. So for example, if I add here a scope, right, so this will be, let's say, band 3. We have the envelope, the level envelope, the amplitude envelope. You can take the gain a bit down. Right, the amplitude envelope of only of this band that we can use in all sorts of different ways and process different effects, send this to different filters, affecting all sorts of different things in your patch with this envelope follower. Right, and this is basically what a filter bank is. You have a bank of filters, sometimes or usually you will have the first one low pass, the last one high pass. Everything in between will be band pass, although sometimes you can also see everything just band pass. And you will have an output usually for each of the bands, and also an envelope follower that you can use for each of the bands. I really recommend experimenting with filter banks. They are quite fun. You can have all sorts of different things going on. I have a video all about spectra, if you want to have a look. So this is it about filter banks. Let's bring back our patch from before. This is a nice patch. Soon I will add one last voice, which will be a sort of a solo that I can just play around. Let's have a look at the next question. This is the last question. Matthew Gayton, hi. Sorry. I am interested to know how you build larger, more complex patches. Do you have smaller patches in mind that you already know will work with what you've laid down? Or does it just flow, essentially inventing it as you go along? When I watch your live streams, it's just amazing that you can keep adding components, thank you, and having it fit together, thank you so much. When I try and add to something that is working well, more often than not it ends up a horrific mess. Alright, so how do I build more complex, larger, more complex patches? Do I have smaller patches in mind? This is a great question. If I have smaller patches in mind. So what I do, usually what I will do before I start composing, usually I say, not always usually, because sometimes it just doesn't work, but usually what I will do, I will come with a sort of an idea that I want either to explore, either to try. I have already something in mind. Sometimes I will sit at the piano, I have an electric piano at home. I will sit at the piano and I will just play something, and I will say, okay, this, I want to try to take those notes, take this melody or chords or whatever and translate them to the modular, to VCV Rack, to other synthesizers. So I will try as much as I can, because otherwise it will just take me double the time, but I try as much as I can to sit down and compose with an idea in mind. So already that I have a starting point, not an idea for everything, but a starting point. So then I sit down and I start with it, and I this is something I love about modular, if it's VCV or hardware, I let the sounds and the modules guide me, sort of. I know it sounds a bit hippie, not in the bad way, of course, but you know, it sounds a bit like, come on, the sounds are guiding you. But yeah, a bit, I listen and I get ideas from it, and I continue composing on top. I try not to force myself onto the instrument. I believe that with modular, it's a sort of a conversation. It's not me controlling everything. It's more of a conversation. The instrument, the modules are doing so much. They are also composers. They are composers and a part of the orchestra. I like looking at a modular as a sort of an orchestra that you can be a part of. And this is the second part of my answer, is that a big part of the composition is the performance. What I love, again, I love about modular is the fact that, again, it's an orchestra and you can perform many different voices at once. This is something I always wanted to do. Unlike when you play guitar, then you have to play the guitar, and then you have to go to the drums and play the drums, and then you have to go to the bass and play the bass, or have different people make it. With modular, you have everything in one place. And a big part of the composition, maybe even the biggest part of the composition, for me at least, is the performance. I can have all sorts of different voices going on, but if there is no performance, if there is no flow, then the composition is also just everything on top of each other. Of course, with generative patches, it's a bit different because the instrument is doing most of it, most of the performance, but also there is a performance type of thing. But I like performing live my music. I think it's a big part of modular, performing everything live. It's something I love doing. So when you think about more complex patches, if you add and add and add, it's alright, but you have to think about how will you perform it. Will all of them play all the time together? I keep hitting the mic. Will all of them play all the time together? Is there a beginning, middle, and end? Is it just like a drone that will drone all the... You have to think about the performance a bit, I think. Never mind how complex the patch or how simple the patch is. You can have also just 2 or 3 voices, and the way you perform them with the filters, with playing the so-called effects, playing the reverbs, playing the delays, looping different things, changing the timbre, bringing voices in and out. I think it's all about the performance at the end, never mind how complex or simple your patch is. And it all starts from one single sound, don't forget. And try also, I think that also an important aspect when you start adding things, then there is a limit, there is a sort of a threshold where your ears just hear one big mess, like you said. And I think you should try, like I'm doing here, you see I'm getting filters to bring stuff in and out. They are not static. There is always movement, there is always something changing. If you perform it or if the modules are doing it themselves, there is... What is this voice, by the way? It's the filter. You see, again, the filter is bringing it in and out, and I'm like, wow, where is it coming from? Yeah, so I think, again, movement, levels, make sure that you start with lower level. If you look here, I do this all the time. I have the dim here activated, which means that I have lots of headroom. I start with negative 12 dB. So you can see I have lots. If I add, there is no distortion, there is no clipping. I have lots and lots of room still. I think start with a lower level. Each voice you add, take the level a bit down. If you hear it clearly, take it 2-3 dB down. You can always bring it up later. And again, filters, try filtering different voices, bringing them in and out. Movement and performance. I think performance is the biggest performance is the biggest thing. Okay, I think this was the last question. Let me, I'm spitting here on the mic. Yeah, this was the last question. Again, thank you so much for your questions. I will add another voice if you want to stick around. Also with Interzone, a sort of a solo, distorted solo voice, just so I can, couple strong frogs, or just so I can play a bit on it. Again, if you are Patreon, join our Discord channel. I will show again this graphics core. We have the graphics core challenge. It's not a competition. I will not choose the best piece. It will be at random. In the next video, I will choose one participant at random, and he can get something from what I offer. Again, there are gift cards for Torman, also all sorts of things. There is this introduction to modular synthesis series of videos that I have that I also offer for free. So there is a nice giveaway if you want. I hope to continue doing this every month now, but the challenge will continue every month. Join the Discord challenge. If you are not a Patreon, consider joining us on Patreon. It will be cool to have you there. And thank you again for your questions and for your support, Patreons. Yes, so I will add another voice with Plateau. So I will send Interzone to Plateau, right? And I will use also, I will use Freak, because I love this filter. And not only Freak, I will use Ferox, and Ferox has also distortion in the drive. You can see drive and distortion. So we will do something like this. We will create a really, hopefully it will be a nice, I will also map this. It will be a nice distorted voice. We just need lots and lots of reverb, so you will have to excuse me, but I'm going to use Valhalla Supermassive, which is one of my favorite plugins recently, because it's just massive. Right, and this I will do something like this. Let's see. Thank you so much. I'm just going to play a bit before I finish the video. Cool. Okay, thanks again, and cheers.